Hey guys, welcome to Did You Get That on Film? On this podcast, we deep dive into horror movies, and so it is full of explicit content as well as spoilers. Please be advised. Now, let's get to the show.
This is Did You Get That on Film? Where we discuss characters in terrible situations that we never find ourselves in. I'm your host DP, and with me always is my friend, someone I'm thankful for, someone who knows not to flaunt their wealth in front of the common folk of the town. My friend Ruth. What's going on, Ruth?
Hello, everyone. Welcome back. In case you guys are wondering what we are talking about today, we will be discussing Thanksgiving, Eli Roth's newest movie. So this is the second movie in our listener request month. So that's the theme this month. So this episode was actually requested by our dear friend. It was the boogeyman, or Justin. So thank you so much for requesting. Justin was actually one of our very first followers when we started the podcast's Instagram page, and he's always been extremely supportive. So we really appreciate it. We can't even tell you how much. If you guys are interested in any kind of horror content, you should definitely follow his page. He is constantly posting. I mean, it's really great content. We really love it. We're sure that you will too. His page is at _the boogeyman. And we're going to link it in the description of this episode announcement, so you can be on the lookout for that. But yeah, just give him a like and a follow. We would appreciate it. And again, thank you so much, Justin, for the constant support and the chats about horror movies. We really do appreciate it. And yeah. If anybody else wants to request some movies, so we have this month pretty much filled with listener requests, but we are definitely going to do this again. You can reach out to us on social media. Instagram is the best place. So it's Did You Get That on Film? We also have the Facebook, Did You Get That on Film? And then if you don't use social media or for any reason just want to contact us a different way, we do have an email address. It's didyougetthatonfilm@gmail.com. So yeah, just let us know what you guys want to hear, and we will be more than happy to cover it. So this is Eli Roth's Thanksgiving. So this was just released last year, so 2023. This was directed by Eli Roth, and it's based on a story by Eli Roth and Jeff Rendell. So this was actually one of 5 mock trailers that was seen in Grindhouse 2007. So Eli Roth directed this Thanksgiving trailer. So it's what's shown in between Planet Terror and Death Proof, if you watch it as a double feature. So people loved it. It's been kind of in the works since then. People really were questioning when is this going to be a full movie? And he was finally able to bring it to fruition in 2023. Which is super cool. It's actually the third of those movies, of those mock trailers, to actually get in feature-length film. So there was also Machete with a fan favorite, Danny Trejo. And then I think it's Hobo with a Shotgun was another one. And yeah. This is the first film of its name, but Eli Roth has already announced that there's going to be a Thanksgiving 2, which is actually set to be released this year.
Damn.
I know. That's what I said. that is what I have on that. Did you want to go ahead and get started?
Yeah, I'm curious what you think because this is one of those newer movies where we never like talked about it before. So it's like I
Yes.
have no idea what you think of this movie.
Yes. Right. We have not discussed this before, so you guys will be hearing our thoughts at the same time that we are hearing each other's thoughts. So I'm very excited about this because I'm really eager to see how you feel about it. I'm really curious. But with that being said, let's just like jump on in. So it opens on Thanksgiving night in Plymouth, Massachusetts. We see a couple of families that are getting ready to eat their Thanksgiving dinner. So one family includes Jessica Wright, her father, Thomas, her stepmother, Kathleen, and Thomas is actually the owner of a big local store called Wright Mart, and they are very wealthy. So Thomas and his fiance Kathleen, so aka Jessica's new stepmom, who she does not like at all, have made the decision this year to start Black Friday extra early. And instead of waiting for Friday, they decided to just open their store on Thanksgiving night. So now the other family that we're focusing on includes one of Thomas's employees, Mitch, who is just trying to celebrate Thanksgiving with his wife, Amanda, and his family, and their friend, Sheriff Newland. But he actually gets called into work to work this Thanksgiving shift at the Wright Mart. So he's obviously very disappointed by that, but it is what it is. So now we cut to the Wright Mart, and there is a Super Bowl sized crowd gathering outside of this fucking store. And they are like fucking chomping at the bit to get. It's like the first 100 customers gets a free fucking waffle iron, and these people are ready to
Die.
not only die for these waffle irons, but
But
kill for
kill.
these waffle irons. And I was like, damn, what's the price on that waffle iron really? Just buy it. It's Black Friday. I think everything's like 50% off. But we get that crazy chaotic scene, and then so we cut back to Jessica's, and dinner's over at this point, and she and her boyfriend Bobby, aka Bobby Goldenarm, who is a all-star pitcher, a USC baseball star, and a future Sox team member. That's how he's gonna play for the Sox. This is in Massachusetts, so he's like a big deal in this town. But they're getting picked up by their friends. So we have Evan, his girlfriend Gabby, their friend Scuba, and his girlfriend Yulia, and they are all going to the movies. During the car ride, they are discussing essentially how Evan got into a fight with a guy from the rival school in the town, I think Hanover, and he ended up punching that guy in the face. And I found this group very difficult to watch. The dialogue, it's just, I don't know. Was this written for Gen Z? And maybe we just
Yes.
not, okay.
Yes. This is a movie. This is a movie for younger people.
Okay. Yeah. Because I was sitting there kind of listening to them talk, and I was like, damn,
I hate them.
I hate them.
I hate all these characters.
Yeah, I was like, damn, this is
It's gonna be
difficult.
hard.
I was like, is Eli Roth just like really fucking bad at dialogue, or was this just not written for me? And I'm thinking that maybe it just like wasn't written for me. But while they're driving, they get stuck in some traffic right outside of Wright Mart, and since they're there, they decide that they are going to just stop in really quickly because Evan needs a new phone because he lost his in the fight. So Jessica is really against it because it's like a circus out there. I mean, the crowd is really kind of going crazy just already. But the group is pretty adamant. When they get there, Bobby really wants to wait by the car, but Jessica doesn't want to go in without him. And I'm like,
why?
why? What's the reason? Just fucking like, you're just supposed to be running in to get a phone. Just get the shit over with. So on their way in, they run into this guy, Ryan, who is obviously in love with Jessica, but Bobby sidesteps him and he's like, back up off my girl, which is understandable. And they head into the store, leaving Ryan and his roommate Scott outside to lament how Ryan would never get a chance to be with Jessica as long as her boyfriend Golden Arm is around. But while the group is heading into the store through a side door, they actually get spotted by the guy that Evan got into a fight with from the other school.
The 17-year-old who really wants a waffle iron.
Who's willing to die for this waffle iron. So his name's Lonnie. He's at the front of the line of this crowd. He's up against the barricade. I mean, acting a fool. And I'm like, okay, can we chill out? Like, what are you really trying to get in here? Like, what's this waffle iron really worth to you? But Evan and this guy, they have this exchange of words, heated words, before the group just heads into the store to get what they need before the crowds are let in. So Lonnie is seeing this happen, and he's kind of like, what the fuck is up with that? And I guess I'm like, why do y'all care so much? Like, is it not surprising to you? Like, I feel like Cheryl Walgreens or like Tiffany
Target.
Yeah, Tiffany Target could probably go through the employee entrance. Like, my T. Paula was just like an employee at Jazzland, aka the Six Flags in New Orleans. And we used to go in that bitch all the time for free. And she was just an employee. Jessica's dad owns this shit. Like, I think it's okay that she goes in. And wouldn't they know that? Like, this town isn't that huge, right?
Right. And also, like, Jessica, like, just go walk in the store and just pick a phone up and take it.
Jessica, just go in the store by yourself, grab the phone, and leave.
What are we doing here?
Okay, so let's continue because it's going to get even more like, what the hell are we doing? Because while all this is happening, so Sheriff Newland has arrived to the Right Mart because he needs to help with crowd control because it's that out of control. They need to call the fucking sheriff. So he arrives with Mitch's wife, Amanda, so that she can give Mitch some leftover Thanksgiving dinner because obviously he didn't get to enjoy it with them. But this is when the crowd outside spots Jessica and her friends in the store, and they're in the store about 10 minutes before it opens, and they're pissed. They're getting mad aggressive. And a large part of that is because Evan, who might be one of the most obnoxious characters in a horror film that I've seen in a while.
Yeah. Insufferable. He's an insufferable character.
Yes.
Because he's so awful. Every scene.
This character, I don't know if it's like he's just like overwritten or overacting, but it's something is just, it's not vibing with me. But he is, instead of just getting his phone and getting the fuck, because like, don't you have a showtime to get to? Like, what time does this fucking movie start? He stands up on the register and he is taunting the people outside.
Right.
Because he's in there early. So he's acting a fool. And it's really fueling the crowd's aggression. So Mitch tells the employees to lock the store's entrance because the crowd is getting really out of control, and he's trying to get the crowd to just calm down. It's only 10 fucking minutes. They're not going to take all the waffle irons. But all hell ends up breaking loose when that asshole kid that Evan punches, Lonnie, when he steals Mitch's bullhorn and he announces that the store is open. This incites a riot. essentially. The crowd then breaks through the barricade and rushes the store. They're just slamming up against locked doors at this point. One of the security guards, Manny, he's just like, fuck this, abandon ship. Things are getting pretty out of control. So both Jessica and Mitch's wife, Amanda, tells the remaining security guard, because there's just the one, Doug, they tell him that he needs to unlock the door so that the people can come in so they do not get crushed. And Amanda's like, we need to get Mitch because he's out there alone at this point. But before the guard can even get the door unlocked, the crowd pressing against it ends up shattering the door. The glass breaks, the doors collapse on top of the security guard, and the crowd starts rushing in, stampeding all over the poor security guard. One customer that's rushing through slices his neck on a jagged shard of glass that's left from the doors. But for some fucking reason, Dante,
Why did he do this?
for some reason, he's bleeding to death. He still goes and grabs a waffle iron. And I'm like, what are the waffle irons made of fucking gold nuggets? And I just didn't notice.
You know what I'm thinking about though? You know they have that with you seen it recently with those Stanley cups?
Dante, that is exactly what this is like. Oh my god.
No,
Yes.
a waffle iron is better because a waffle is warm and delicious.
And everybody knows everybody's always fucking dehydrated. You're not drinking this fucking water. You just want the cup. I just watched a practically stampeding video over some fucking Stanley cups. That's exactly what it's like. But yeah, no, this guy, he grabs this waffle iron instead of grabbing some gauze, a phone to dial 911, and he ends up just bleeding to death. Just right there, dying on the ground, holding this waffle iron. And so a woman comes up and just takes it out of his cold dead fingers.
I mean, you don't need it.
I mean, clearly. So Amanda tries running away from the crowd, but she gets knocked down and trampled a little bit. Jessica's friend Ethan is still standing on top of the registers and he's filming all of this chaos on his phone. And people are shoving and getting into literal fist fights over these waffle irons. His friends are getting shoved. His friend Yulia gets shoved to the ground. Scuba has to dive on top of her to protect her from getting crushed. His girlfriend is even on the ground, having to like fucking elbow people, trying to dive at her. I mean, the whole thing is crazy. And Evan is not helping in any way, shape, or form. Bobby and Jessica, who are kind of cowering, they notice that the security guard is still alive and trapped under the door, still being stampeded upon. So Bobby decides to crawl over to help him instead of standing up on his own two adult feet. And so while he's doing that, somebody ends up stepping on his arm and it folds like, do you remember those slap bracelets from the 90s? That's what his arm looks like. It crinkles beneath him in a really ridiculous break. It looks like origami. It's broken beyond recognition. It's obviously devastating because this is his pitching arm, right? So he's on the ground, rolling in agony. Amanda, Mitch's wife, for some strange reason, just will not pull herself up off the ground. I don't know what's happening. She has ample time to do it. She's still laying on the ground. I guess she's too traumatized to function, to stand up. So it's as she's crawling around in all of this chaos, she ends up getting struck in the head by a basket.
A shopping basket, y'all.
Yeah. So two women are pushing these baskets and fighting over them. They're very obnoxious. One of the women that's pushing the baskets is this woman. She was in the front of the store in the beginning before the stampede broke out. She's a very aggressive, beefy brunette.
Captain Spaulding girl.
Her name is Lizzie. She is actually from Massachusetts. This accent is 100% real, and I had it in the fun facts, but she's actually a descendant of John Carver. She's as Massachusetts as it comes. So she is pushing this basket, fighting this woman, and Amanda's hair ends up getting caught in the wheel of Lizzie's basket. And so as Lizzie's fighting with this woman, she's just pulling her basket away, and it's actually ripping off like a portion of Amanda's scalp. The hair goes with it, and Lizzie just kind of like drags it under her shopping cart. The piece of scalp just goes like bouncing across the floor. And so Amanda just lays there and she dies. She was like knocked out by this basket and just like kind of bleeds to death from this like scalp wound. So Mitch spots his wife or her body on the floor, and he is distraught. He starts calling out for help, and that's when Sheriff Newland looks over and he takes stock of the situation. Amanda's dead. The security guard that was trampled under the front door is dead. The deranged waffle iron customer with the split neck is also dead. Bobby's on the ground, writhing in pain from his liquefied bones and his pitching arm.
Boy, got weak bones.
I mean, he has weak bones. Look, he do. So that's when Sheriff Newland takes his gun and just fires into the air, yelling for everybody to just fucking stop. The screen then cuts to black, and we get the title card, Thanksgiving, and it's written in blood. So that was like the cold opening. So then we get some on-screen text that reads 1 year later. So now we cut to a shot of a laptop, and it's playing this very insensitive video. It's the one that Evan took when he was standing on the registers. It's been posted on YouTube with some really insensitive edits made to it, but that's when we see that this laptop is in what I'm going to call the lair of who we'll later learn is the killer in this movie. So the camera then pans around the room, and we see some weapons, some newspaper clippings about the stampede, and there's a TV on right now that's showing the news, and it's announcing that Right Mart is planning on opening the store on Thanksgiving night yet again. People just don't learn.
How much money did you make that night?
I'm really wondering.
This the bitch down.
Because at one point, I think one of the Right Mart cashiers was actually throwing bows, too. So I'm like, I can't imagine that y'all were actually, like, after the sheriff had to fire his gun in the store, were people really, like, standing in line calmly and checking out and paying money? I can't imagine.
I feel it had to close down.
But if anything, y'all had to come out of pocket to pay for all the extensive damage, right?
And wrongful deaths.
Yeah, they had to pay settlements on that. So I'm like, I don't know. This seems foolish. But so this news story is acting as an exposition dump. So Jessica's dad, Thomas, who owns the Right Mart, he says that he's beefed up security, but a lot of local residents, including Mitch, are very upset at the store that they're opening again. And they feel like Thomas and his family have blood on their hands, including Mitch's wife, Amanda. So Thomas has spent the last year doing a bunch of charitable work in order to save face. But a lot of people are saying it's not enough. Apparently, there were a lot of settled lawsuits. They settled, I believe, because the store's security cameras were allegedly, quote unquote, not working that night, which we know and Mitch knows is a lie. Yeah. He's convinced that it's just an attempt by Thomas to cover up just how bad the event was to save themselves from getting totally wiped out in lawsuits. So it's also at this time that we learn that Bobby's broken arm was a career ender for him, and that after that happened, he just disappeared. He just ghosted after the accident. He's not been seen since. So now we cut to a diner, this is the town's diner, where the aggressive brunette Lizzie is working as a waitress. Sheriff Newland and his brand new deputy LaBelle. So LaBelle is a newcomer to the town as well as the sheriff's department, and he's kind of rough around the edges. But they're sitting in the diner, they're having coffee, and Lizzie presents them with a John Carver mask to celebrate Thanksgiving, as he was the first governor of the New Plymouth colony. So it's a really big deal in this area. So then later we cut to a scene at the local fair where Gabby is lamenting to Jessica about how people keep reposting the video that Evan took that night, and they keep tagging this group in the video. But Evan insists that he did not post the video, and he's really kind of over talking about it. And he's like, well, I wasn't the only one with a cell phone. But it's Evan's video. Really, Evan's holding the phone in the video. Am I stupid? Like, how the fuck else did it get posted?
Yeah.
So Kathleen, Jessica's stepmom, is also at the fair, and she's talking to Sheriff Newland when Jessica walks up, and we learn that Jessica and her dad were supposed to be filming a commercial at the John Carver house. We also learned that now Kathleen is going to be in the commercial as well, which kind of rubs Jessica the wrong way. She really doesn't like Kathleen, and I don't really blame her because Kathleen kind of sucks. And it was actually Kathleen's idea to open the store on Thanksgiving night. So that does need to be said. So they all walk over to the John Carver house together, and Thomas is upset on the porch because he shows them that the house has been totally trashed and it's been vandalized with somebody spraying Fight Mart on the walls. And then they also apparently stole an axe that was mounted on the wall. That'll come up later. So outside, Thomas and Jessica are trying to have a conversation about everything, really about, she's kind of relieved to not be doing this commercial because she's really kind of tired of pretending that everything is really normal when it's not, because apparently her dad hasn't really been acknowledging what happened the year before. And now this new sale that he's putting on is just kind of really ignoring the whole tragedy.
And so tone deaf.
Extremely tone deaf. I mean, it's kind of ridiculous. But as they're talking, that's when Kathleen rounds the corner, and Jessica's upset because she just kind of feels like they can never have any alone time without Kathleen
living, breathing.
Yes, breathing in her general area. So Jessica ends up storming off, and she ends up going to the local diner with her friends, the Gabby, Evan, Scuba, and Yulia. While they're there, the group ends up learning about a party that's being thrown by McCarty, who is a fucking senior citizen compared to these high school children. I mean, he's old as fuck. Essentially, he supplies alcohol for underage kids, high school students, and then he's collecting money for tickets to get into this, like, underage drinking party. I mean, a real gem of a human being. So he has a kid, Jacob, who is
Magoo.
He's super Magoo. He's in charge of handing out flyers for the event, collecting money, things like that. An extra tidbit, he also happens to be the person who writes all of Evan's papers for school. Because Evan is a jock. I don't know if we mentioned that. So Evan and Scuba are jocks. They're football players. And Jacob is, like I said, Magoo. I guess that's just the food chain here. So while they're all talking about this, Jessica spots who she believes is Bobby leaving the diner. They think it's Bobby, but they really just see the back of this person's head. Now, Bobby has pretty distinct, like dark curly hair. But this is the first time that anyone's seen him since the riot last year. So when they asked Jessica why he didn't come to talk to her, which is like rude, right? Like what kind of thing is it to ask somebody?
When you know.
Aren't y'all friends? Y'all just gonna play the fuck out of her for the sake of this exposition? She's like, I don't fucking know. She says, I haven't spoken to him in a year. So their conversation ends up getting cut short when they all receive a notification that they were tagged in a picture on Instagram. It's a dinner table that's all set up for Thanksgiving dinner, and the text reads, the table is set. So nobody knows who the fuck this person is. It's just somebody that's using the name John Carver. But during all of this, we cut over to Ryan's house. Ryan is the guy from the beginning who was obviously in love with Jessica, who was trying to pursue her, but was blocked by Bobby because they were dating. So he's talking to his friend and roommate Scotty. And this is where we learn that Ryan and Jessica are, in fact, now dating. And Ryan has been invited to dinner with Jessica's wealthy family. So he's really excited for that. And he's also been asked to be in the Thanksgiving parade with her wealthy family. So he's feeling like really good.
That was fast.
This is like those memes that's like your replacement is always closer than you think. That's what that remind me of. Or like the you versus the guy she tells you not to worry about. Because I was like, damn, of all the fucking people that you could get with, you just got with like the first guy that showed you interest.
They're young. That's why it doesn't really matter.
Right. Because she's still just in high school. He is in college, and Bobby's also in college. But he's getting dressed up because he is going to meet up with Jessica and her friends at the diner. So her friends seem okay with him. They don't love him. Evan thinks he's boring and messes with the dynamic of the friend group, which I was like, I totally understand that. So, I mean, essentially he's no Bobby. He's not fitting in.
And he's new. He's a new person.
He's new, but he's also kind of fucking Magoo too. He's not Magoo, but he's something that I don't like. I don't know. Jessica is just like, he hasn't ghosted me. He hasn't ghosted me, and he's fucking has a pulse. So he's already doing better than Bobby, in my opinion. So she's like, let everybody just please try. So Ryan gets there, and their feelings immediately warm towards him because he gives them all tickets to the Patriots-Steelers game on the 50-yard line because he's trying very, very, very hard to get her friends to like him.
And they're like, he's so cool. Let's see Evan.
Yeah. But they're all gushing over these tickets, and that's when Jessica looks over out the window and she spots somebody standing outside staring at her with a John Carver mask on. She looks away for a second, looks back, and he's gone. It's very, very Halloween. Just then, the bitchy brunette waitress, Lizzie, she comes over to take their order. But that's when we cut to the killer's lair. I don't know. That's the only thing that I could think of to call it. But he has a freeze frame photo of Lizzie up on his computer, and he's sharpening an axe, presumably the one taken from the John Carver house. We can pretty much foresee that Lizzie is in danger. So at the end of the night, as Lizzie is closing down the diner for the day, she's about to head out when she is grabbed by someone that's in a pilgrim costume and a John Carver mask. He slices her hand, and then he drags her over to the sink where he dunks her head under the water a couple of times and then just like slams her against the open freezer door. The door is very, very icy, so her face sticks to the door and her hands stick to the door. She ends up having to tear her skin away on her cheek and fingers before John Carver gets to her with an axe. So she runs into an employee area and she's trying to use her phone to call for help. But because her fingers are a bloody, shitty mess, she's having trouble. But that's when she looks on the diner security camera and she sees that the killer isn't there anymore. So she tries to take this opportunity to leave. She heads outside to get into her car, but she cannot find her car keys. Well, it turns out John Carver has her car keys, and he proceeds to chase her down in her own car. And John Carver's like hot on her heels, so she ends up trying to dive into a dumpster. But John Carver slams the car into the dumpster, causing the top to slam down, and it's so heavy that it ends up cleaving Lizzie's body in two at the waist. So her upper body falls into the dumpster, but her lower body, just her fucking legs, are dangling outside of the dumpster, just kind of dragging all kinds of innards with them. And that's the first on-screen kill. Very creative, Mr. Roth. That was a good one. And I'm counting those as like the first kills and things. I'm not counting the riot.
The deaths.
Yeah, I'm not counting those. I'm talking about like bona fide kills. Now, the next morning, Sheriff Newland, he's arriving to the scene at the Right Mart because John Carver actually took Lizzie's bottom half and he brought it to the Right Mart and he ended up sitting her legs on top of the Right Mart logo, just her legs. Sheriff Newland and Deputy LaBelle and Detective Chu, they are all heading over to the diner where the crime scene initially took place. So the crime scene techs are there and they're investigating the scene. Everybody's like picking up fucking intestines off the ground and stuff. It's a lot, but that's when they check the footage and they see that the killer is a guy in a John Carver mask, and they comment about how that same person put Lizzie's legs on top of the Right Mart building. So they're confident that this is the person that killed her.
They're like, well, obviously it's the same person. And we're like, yes.
Yeah, we know. So there's certain things in this movie, certain decisions that he makes that I just kind of like don't think are great. So some of the writing in this movie, I'm just kind of like,
no.
What was the reason for this? And there's certain things that are brought up, certain plot points, certain kind of decisions that the characters make that I don't feel like go anywhere. I don't feel like they add anything to the story. If anything, I feel like they kind of muddle the story a little bit. This is just kind of an example of something that we didn't need. So, like I said earlier, there's that kid Jacob who does kind of lackey work for the guy McCarty who supplies underage kids with alcohol. And we were talking about how he writes Evan's papers for school. So we cut to the school and Evan is picking up one of these papers from Jacob. Jacob asks for his money to be paid. Evan doesn't give it to him. Evan is just kind of like, oh, well, this paper better be good. Jacob is like, oh, the teacher couldn't have written it better herself. And then they kind of walk away from each other. And that whole thing, it's going to come up a little bit later, but even though it comes up later, it all comes up to a dead end because nothing comes from it. And I can't help wondering why certain things were put in the movie because I don't think they add to anyone's character development, and they definitely don't add to the plot.
No.
So after that little exchange, that's when Evan gets another notification that John Carver has tagged him in another post. So it's a picture of Lizzie's severed legs sitting on top of the Right Mart building. He runs to the group to show them. So that's when Jessica looks closely at the picture of the table that John Carver tagged them in, and she notices that on the place settings, each spot has a little placard with their names on it. Jessica is freaked out, and so she relays all of this to her dad, who is still, even with this very real threat to his daughter's life, he refuses to be bullied into closing the store on Thanksgiving, and so he just refuses. He just says they're going to hire extra security. I hate this kind of character.
It's kind of parent.
Well, the parent I don't like, but even just parenting aside, he has the same vibes as the mayor from Jaws, when it's like you're just being so obstinate in the face of a very terrible decision that is going to have catastrophic results. It's like I have a hard time even taking you seriously as a person, because I cannot understand what's the reason you're going to have the store open. You never had it open prior to the year before, and the first time you did it, there was a riot where people died, and your store was damaged. You had to have lost inventory.
Your reputation.
Yeah, your reputation's tarnished. You're still a year later on a PR tour trying to fix what people think about you. All of that happens, and you still won't like skip a year. Like, you won't take a year off. That doesn't make
Just
sense to
open it
me.
on Friday. Why do you have to open it on Thanksgiving night?
You can open it extra early on Friday. You can open it at 6 a.m., which is still dickish, but understandable. It's like, I don't understand the reason. You'll sell just as much inventory on Friday as you will on Thursday night.
Who would go Thursday night? I'd be like, I'm never going to that store again.
He's not giving it enough time to like not be fresh in people's minds. But he does tell Jessica that she should go to the sheriff's office to let them know what's going on. So her friends are just absolutely flabbergasted that he isn't closing the store, because obviously there's a murderer on the loose.
Who wants us dead?
Specifically.
I can't stress that part enough. He wants me dead.
And your dad won't even fucking cancel. Like, fuck off. But that's when Scuba decides that this is okay. That's when Scuba decides that he wants to DM the killer. Come get me, bitch. Ass attitude. And I also hate this character in horror movies.
The tough guy.
Yes. And Jessica's like, are you a fucking idiot?
He chopped that woman up like she was a goddamn Thanksgiving turkey.
And then took her leg. Do you know how fucking sick you have to be to pick up somebody's legs, just their fucking legs, and throw them over your shoulder with the intestines like pouring down your back, and then carry it all the way up to the roof of a building so that you could drop it down on the logo? Do you know how unhinged you have to be? I don't think that Scuba is thinking about this logically. This person's clearly insane.
Yeah.
You're just a high school football
Player.
Like, bro. But just then, the old guy, McCarty, who throws these high school parties, he pulls up to plug his party. Very skeezy, but he tells them that they should come to the party because it's the only place in town that they won't get killed, which I thought that was pretty silly. So they scoff, and that they head to the police station. When they get there, Sheriff Newland and Detective Chu, they're asking for Jessica's help in identifying people from the riot, because they believe that someone from the store that night is responsible for the murders, which they made that connection really quickly.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, so good for them. So Jessica laments letting her dad open the store that night at all. So Detective Chu leaves, and that's when Sheriff Newland decides to have a heart-to-heart with Jessica, telling her that he understands that the situation that she's in is a difficult one. But if she has any information that can help them, he promises that he will keep it between them. And he's like, this is a matter of life and death. essentially what he's getting at is that everybody is pretty suspicious about the security system just not working that night, right? It just seems really improbable.
Right.
We then see Jessica leaving the station, and when she walks out, Bobby is out front waiting for her. And the first thing she says is she saw him in the diner yesterday, but he says that's not right because he'd just gotten in that morning. Suspicious. So he apologizes to her, and they end up taking a walk together. And she expresses how upset she was that he ghosted her, which she has every right to be. And he admits that he was wrong for doing that and that he unfairly blamed her for what happened to him.
Unfairly?
That's debatable. But
Because I was waiting at the door.
But in her defense, you're a grown-ass man. You went on your own accord. You know what I mean? Like, she asked you to go in. You didn't want to, but she was like, oh, no, come on. And you did. She is not responsible for this stampede that took place. She is also not responsible for the fact that you decided that you were going to crawl across the floor to get to a stampede victim. Like, you crawled through a stampede to help a stampede victim and were shocked when you were stampeded upon. I mean, I get where both of them are coming from. I understand his frustration. I don't understand him ghosting her, though. So he says that instead of talking it out with her, which he should have, he was just kind of a dick and vanished, which is true. So he regrets it, and they both end up forgiving each other.
That was quick.
Super quick. Because what is there to really be upset about anyway, right? Like, she didn't break your fucking arm. It's misdirected hostility, so of course it's like easily dispersed. So we also learned that he has been in rehab and things have been really going well with his arm. He's been progressing very well, and he may even be able to pitch again. But Bobby can tell that something is bothering Jessica. So he pushes her, and that's when she reveals that it was actually Kathleen who went in and deleted all of Rightmark's security footage of that night so that they didn't receive any bad publicity or get sued. And Jessica feels really guilty about this because she didn't stop her and she didn't tell anyone about it, but she does think that she can help now because of what the sheriff said. She also says that her dad has a backup system at their house that stores the footage from the security system for a year, and she wants to see exactly what's on them. So as they've made their rounds, walking and talking, they get back to the police station because Bobby needs to go in to give a statement. And that's when Bobby sees Ryan coming up behind Jessica, and he tells Jessica, he's like, oh no, don't look now, it's Ryan, I'll get rid of him. But then, awkward, he learns in this moment when Ryan comes up to give Jessica a kiss that they're now dating. I know. And then Ryan also looks at Bobby all smugly. Ugh, it's very uncomfortable.
I liked it. That's what you get, Bobby.
He did ghost her.
Ghoster.
I don't like Ryan, though. It's just hard to root for him. It's hard to be on his side. But before that can go any further, the sheriff comes out and he asks Bobby to come in to give a statement. Then we're back at the killer's lair. I don't know what else to call it. He has a cork board set up with some frantic writing and pictures of all his soon-to-be victims. And we see Lizzie's on there. Then we also see Scuba, Evan, And then it stops over the security guard, Manny, who, if you remember, is the cowardly security guard who ended up running away when things got too hot.
But I mean,
what the hell was he supposed to do? I mean, he could have forcefully yelled, but he didn't do anything. He just left.
what would you have done?
I would never become a security guard because I know that I am not equipped to do that job. So I would never be in this situation. I feel like if you don't have the courage, you shouldn't become like a cop or something.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, how are you going to be a bouncer, but you're scared to bounce? That's not the way it works.
He was like, this is a crowd of people and they're going out of control.
But you were hired for crowd control. So what the hell are you talking about? No. So that's when we cut to Manny's house. And he is packing up his stuff because he's like, I'm getting the fuck.
How did he know?
Because he's us.
He watches scary movies. He was like, I'm next.
Right. He isn't just leaving to go to like Florida. He's going to the Dominican Republic.
He's like, my passport.
Right. Until this all blows over. So he is walking around his apartment. He ends up throwing his passport on a table, and then he goes to look out the window. He's telling his cat goodbye. And when he goes back to the table to gather up his things, gather up his passport, it's gone. Nowhere to be found. So he's looking for it, but then he looks back at his sofa, and there's a John Carver mask sitting on it, and he is shook. So he grabs a bat, and he starts shit-talking the killer.
I'll be out the door.
Exactly. Me fucking too. But all of a sudden, the killer plunges an electric carving knife, still on, right in the middle of his stomach. John Carver then pops out, and he ends up wrapping a garrote around Manny's neck, and he pulls it so tightly that he ends up decapitating Manny. And that's the second on-screen kill. So then John Carver picks up Manny's head and he loads it into a duffel bag. But on his way out, he looks back and he sees Manny's cat is all alone. So he gives him some food before he leaves because he's an animal lover.
Because the cat was like, someone's gonna feed me.
The cat was like, can I have a word before you go? So he feeds him and leaves Manny's headless corpse on the floor. We then get a shot where John Carver is taking Manny's name off of his place setting at the table, and he's replacing it with Manny's head. And then when the camera pans up, we see the upper half of Lizzie's body just kind of sitting in a chair. So when Jessica wakes up the next morning, she sees that she's tagged in a photo of their body parts at this dinner table, Manny and Lizzie. So she tells the police, and she presumably calls Bobby because he also heads over to her house, and he's waiting outside, which Ryan drives by and sees and doesn't look very happy about it. But we do learn through some exposition of the news that the police have a bit of evidence that leads them to this location, to Cordage Park. And so they're really trying to focus their search there. And they're really ramping up their efforts after Jessica gives them the information that 2 people are dead now. So while all of this is going on, Jessica is going through the security tapes on her dad's computer, printing out photos of people from the riot. Because she's like, I am a level 1000 snitch. At this point, she's like, she's just like,
I don't want to die.
I don't want to die. So whatever I have to do, I'm giving up the photos. So as she's going through all these photos of people from the riot, it's at this point that she notices Ryan, her new boyfriend, and his friend / roommate Scotty, and they're talking to the security guard, Doug, the one that was actually trampled to death. And Ryan is dapping him up. They're talking. They're very friendly, like he knows him. And she seems really surprised and puzzled by this. But just as she's finishing up printing out all these photos, her dad walks in. And they end up having this really heartfelt moment where he apologizes to her for rushing so quickly to marry Kathleen after Jessica's mom died. And Jessica is really touched. They exchange their I love yous, and it's a very sweet moment. So after that's done, Jessica leaves the house and she meets up with Bobby, who's waiting outside, and they go to the police station. While they're at the police station, they essentially just start dropping dimes on everybody and their grandma. They're pointing out people they know. They're giving names. So this includes a kid named Lonnie. So this is the kid that was from the rival school that Evan punched. He's the one that actually started the riot. So they tell them that. His girlfriend, Amy, who is apparently a cheerleader at that other school as well. Then they have this kid, Lionel, who is a kid from their school, I think. And she says that he always plays the turkey in the town's little Thanksgiving Day parade. So that's when Jessica kind of reluctantly pulls out a picture of Ryan and his roommate, Scotty. And she shows the sheriff, Ryan, hugging Doug, that security guard. So the sheriff and Bobby are immediately suspicious of Ryan because he omitted knowing Doug, the security guard, in any of his statements to the police. He also admitted knowing Doug to Jessica. So they're like, why are you keeping this a secret? What's the reason for that? So everybody's kind of like on edge. But Jessica is like, you guys, it could be anything.
It could be anything.
Then why lie?
We just don't tell the cops the truth.
But you can't tell your girlfriend?
No, because she at the fucking police station telling her social security number.
Touche. Because it took her no time at all to just start. This is the who, what, where, when, why, and I can give you the how to. So yeah, maybe he sensed that she was a snitch. So yeah, maybe. So the sheriff tells Jessica to just go back to school and stay vigilant. Keeps all these printed pictures.
All the information.
All the information. So now at school, the class is reading essays they wrote about Thanksgiving, and Evan gets called to read his essay. Now remember, this is the one that he bought from Jacob earlier that he didn't pay for, but turns out Jacob just copied and pasted an essay that was on their teacher's personal blog, and Evan is pissed. Now, I like comeuppance, and I don't like Evan. I think that we've made that pretty clear. But my question about this scene is, why the fuck did Eli Roth put this in the movie? What was the point of this? What was the point of this entire scene?
Now, thinking about it, I don't think we see that character again after this.
Well, you do see him again. You just like lay eyes on him again later, like way at the end of the movie. But nothing comes from this at all. Like this tension, because then, so they leave the class and they're starting, they kind of start talking about like, oh my gosh, Evan, that's plagiarism and you could get expelled. And he's like, I'm going to kill Jacob. And he's upset. And it's like all this stuff. But this, obviously, it never comes up again, like at all. Zero, never comes up again. And I know that that's because of like the events that are about to unfold, but because those events are about to unfold, I don't understand why they had to put this like
this whole classroom scene.
Why put the entire classroom scene in there at all? The movie itself is not a particularly long movie. I know that we typically like our movies to be around an hour and a half.
Tops.
Yes, depending on the movie. For our horror movies, for like slasher type movies, that's what we're looking for.
Yeah. It's 106 minutes, so that's an hour and 46 minutes, yeah.
Yeah. This doesn't like necessarily slow down the momentum of the movie, but it's one of those things where it's like when you get to the end, when you start to get to an area where we'll get there, the movie kind of does start to drag a little bit. It seems like this where you could have taken this out and you could have shortened the runtime just even a tad to not give us these extra superfluous scenes to be watching. You know what I mean?
It was just weird because nothing came of it.
Nothing came of it. And so that made it totally useless.
Exactly.
And it's not even like it added to the character of Evan, but it also didn't add to the character of Jacob either, because Jacob is not used in any capacity beyond this. So it's just like kind of fucking weird. But anyway, so that's after class, the group meets up to discuss this Ryan business. And since none of her friends particularly liked Ryan in the first place, they are quick to believe.
I mean, turned on him like it was nothing.
They are just like, if you don't have anything to hide, then why not mention it? Just so the mere fact that you're like, damn, I knew somebody that died in that. Isn't that crazy? You know what I mean? Like, just out of like shock, sadness, if he was your friend. So they're just like, why wouldn't he say he knew the security guard? So they all start speculating about all the possible suspects. That's when Evan and Scuba talk about turning on people. Evan and Scuba are like, it could be Bobby, for all we fucking know.
And I like that. He just disappeared.
Sidney Prescott could have used some friends like this.
Like that.
But no, you're right. Yeah, no, he did disappear. And not just like he became distant. He straight up, like after the incidents of that night, he was just fucking gone. Straight gone for a year. He didn't call, write, Facebook message, didn't Facebook poke anybody, Instagram likes, nothing. So he also went through something extremely traumatic and life-changing, a life-changing injury. And in horror movies of the 90s, that would have made him the prime suspect, right?
Right.
They're like, who really knows what's going on with him? And that's fair. Yulia suggests Mitch, which is also fair. Remember Mitch from the beginning, it was his wife who was killed with the grocery baskets, scalped to death in the riot. And he's still very angry about that. We actually see clips of him on the news. He's really protesting because he's, one, still very angry about what happened last year, but two, absolutely appalled that Right Mart is going to open the store again on Thanksgiving for another year in a row. They didn't even take any time off. So he's super pissed.
He's not really in the movie.
He's just kind of this periphery character who's been kind of stewing over the events of last year. So that's when Scuba and Evan decide that the best defense is a good offense. So they say that they're just going to confront everybody, because that's just kind of like what they do. They're jocks, and that's their approach to everything.
Everybody's scared, no goddamn Evan.
No. And then y'all are jocks, but it's like you're high school football players. Mitch is a grown man.
What is this? Halloween Ends?
Don't even get me started. So while they're talking, Ryan keeps trying to call Jessica, but she's ignoring it. And so the group makes a decision, which is smart. They decide that they really can't trust anybody. So like all we can trust are ourselves. So just kind of fuck everybody on the periphery, right?
Which is the way you have to be.
In a situation like this, where y'all are being, essentially hunted, right? Your friend group, yeah. So meanwhile, Ryan is getting ready to be in the Thanksgiving Day Parade. He's going to be in it with Jessica and her family. They're going to be riding on the float together. So he's trying on his Mayflower outfits. He's dressed like a pilgrim, which is, they do a thing in the movie where it's like, it's kind of subtle, but also kind of not at all. They're really doing that kind of thing that they do a lot in Scream 2. A lot of red herring suggestions, right?
Yes.
you see people, they're doing something, they have a weird look in their eye, or there's an eerie music that plays around them. They do that a lot in this movie, and they're doing it right now with Ryan. So Ryan, he's in that pilgrim outfit, and then remember, the pilgrim outfit is a part of John Carver's the murderers. That's like a part of his get up. So he's in the pilgrim outfit. He's angry because Jessica's not answering his phone. We already know that he's like, like I'm doing air quotes, like hiding something with the whole security guard thing. So this is kind of like red herring time.
She hanging out with her ex-boyfriend.
Okay, so wait. Bobby just so happens to be there too in the warehouse.
But why though?
Bobby is actually home for winter break from college, and he's working for his uncle right now while he's on break. And I believe his uncle drops like a tow truck, right?
Yes.
I was thinking that he was at the warehouse because were they going to be using the tow truck to pull one of the floats? That's why I was thinking that he was at the warehouse because the truck is there.
Possibly.
But they end up running into each other, and it's like the pissiest little fucking argument. Like, it's just so fucking Weenie Hut Jr. ass argument that they're having. But basically, Ryan's like, like, damn it, it's like, I can't wait until you leave type thing. And Bobby's like, who said anything about leaving? He's like, I might be staying longer. And Ryan is really pissed because Ryan's like, get your ass out of my life, right? I don't know why, but the movie is really trying to get you to not like Ryan.
Yes. And I don't know why, because there's nothing wrong with Ryan. And we're not saying like they want you to distrust Ryan. They actively want you to make Ryan out to be the bad guy in the story.
They do. But it's like, Ryan didn't do anything wrong. And it's like, I had to keep reminding myself of that. Bobby ghosted his girlfriend for a year. Like, she literally, Bobby could have been married with a family in Iowa for all Jessica knows. Like, that's how little interaction she's had with him. So it's like, Ryan is not the bad guy in this situation. He wasn't even friends with Bobby. So there is no betrayal there.
He was straight up like, I like this girl. So
Yeah.
the minute that she was free,
he shot his shot. So that's when we cut to Hanover. So this is the big rival school. So this is the school that Lonnie goes to. And we're checking in with Lonnie, the person that started the riot, and his girlfriend Amy. So it's the middle of the day, middle of school day. They're doing stuff in the gym, but they decide that they're going to start like fooling around, doing a little hooking up.
a little hanky panky.
It's very, very hanky-panky. So they're in this small room that just has like a big trampoline in the center of it. It somehow has like a stage in the front and a trampoline in the middle. But that's when Amy decides to jump on the trampoline while Lonnie sits on the stage to watch her. And she starts flashing him some butt, and she's kind of flirting a lot. So when she turns around and she's not facing Lonnie anymore, that's when John Carver appears out of fucking nowhere behind Lonnie, and I couldn't help but think of
A wine cork?
well, that
Okay.
is very good imagery. But I was thinking of Burke Dennings in The Exorcist. You know how he gets his head turned a full fucking 180? It's backwards. That's what happens to Lonnie in this moment. I mean, he's like looking behind him. His neck, when it turned, it sounded like if you balled up like a big sheet of parchment paper. Like, it sounds crazy. And because Amy's back is turned, she doesn't see this happen. So she's really obliviously jumping on this trampoline still. And that's when a large blade, I know, this was rough to watch. And it's like I knew that it was coming because they used kind of the image, the trampoline image, in a lot of the promotional stuff. There's a lot of like promo pictures, posters with it. But I was like, I didn't like it. So the large blade comes up through the trampoline, and my God, it goes through her heel first. She jumps right on it. So it causes her to scream, and she falls. And then John Carver, I mean, he just essentially keeps running this large blade. It's like the tip of a spear. I mean, when I say blade, I don't just mean like a fucking pocket knife. The shit is huge. So he's running it up through the trampoline, continuously poking it. And she's on a trampoline, right? So her body just keeps bouncing up and down. So every time she comes down, she's getting another stab and another stab, uncontrollably bouncing up and down, getting stabbed over and over again on this trampoline. I mean, it's crazy. So I'm going to say that those are the third and fourth on-screen kills. We are going to see more about what happens, I guess, with Amy's body later, but these two ain't in the union anymore, as Joel would say.
Gutted, slashed, brother ain't in the union no more.
So now, it just so happens to be a game day, but because they have these two Hanover students missing and they found blood in the gym, they of course cancel the game. Obviously, I mean, it's a no fucking brainer. What are we talking about right now?
But no brain, Evan over there.
Evan is a no brainer because he cannot take this. He just explodes for no fucking reason other than they need him to kind of storm off, which he does. He decides that he's gonna go to the field, and Scuba's like, "Where are you going?" And he's like, he's gonna go play the game. And Scuba's like, "You can't play football alone." And he's like, "Watch me." And I was like, what the fuck is happening right now?
Foolishness.
It's very much foolishness. And I was like, Evan, I don't like what you're doing right now. Like, just think a little bit. Like, you're being a child. But the sheriff ends up sending Gabby to go grab him because he's telling them, so he's telling Jessica and Gabby, he's like, you guys should really all stick together. You should travel in pairs or groups. And that's why, so he sends Gabby to get Evan, and he is like, go to the locker rooms so that you guys can change. Jessica's going to wait there for them in front of the school. They're all going to try to stay together. Gabby is able to get him and bring him back. And as they're walking back into the school, John Carver ends up popping out. He chloroforms both of them. And then he ends up texting Jessica from Gabby's phone, asking her to come to them.
What would you have done?
Dante.
Well, you wouldn't have answered the message quickly. So that was his first mistake.
Stop. Stop, y'all.
I just got this.
Y'all, I really do my best. I really do try. But one thing I won't do, I could never be in a Scream movie because my phone has been, essentially on Do Not Disturb, silent, don't answer the bitch since 2010.
Right.
Don't answer phone calls. Additionally, I'm not the best texter. So he would have texted me, and I would not have gotten that shit. It would have floated off into the fucking ether, and he would have been waiting back there by himself with these chloroformed bodies. Like, damn, what is this bitch doing? If we're using horror movie logic, if I got that text, so Jessica's looking at it, she sees it comes through on her phone, and so I have to assume she feels something slightly strange about it because they have her look out through the school doors, the glass doors. She sees the police standing there, so she's checking, and I guess that gives her a sense of security. Grab one of the fucking cops and walk with him. If you are gonna go, just be like, hey, I just got this weird text, can you come with me? Walk me.
His name is weird, but just like, hey, the sheriff wanted us to stay together. I can't go by myself. Can you come with me, please?
Yes, and the cop would have done it, obviously, because we know that 2 students were killed in the school.
In addition to 2 people in the town.
Right. So there is a serial killer on the loose that's targeting these students. We know that because we know that Snitch McGitch Jessica has already given them all the information. She's shown them the Instagram post that they're being tagged in. So we know that they are being targeted. People are dying around them. And now you just got this text when they're just supposed to be changing. Like, there's no other information behind this text than just like, hey, can you come here for a minute? Just get the cop to go with you.
I'd be like, why? What y'all want?
Or ask some fucking follow-up questions. But she's sending Gabby some text, and this is when she finds Gabby's phone. It's abandoned, sitting in the bottom of a custodian's cart, just like in the middle of the hallway. But she picks up the phone, and through the phone's screen, she's able to see, just in the nick of time, John Carver is right behind her, swinging an axe at her like it's nobody's business. So she would have gotten her head lobbed off.
Done.
But she dodges it and she makes a run for it. John Carver's hot on her heels. And she's able to hide from him. It's a neat scene. So she goes into it's like a hair salon. I guess this school, in addition to being like an academy, also teaches like day trades.
Well, you know, that's a real thing.
No, I know that it's a real thing because, fun fact, Eli Roth, when he was filming for the movie, in the school that they were filming in, he stumbled upon.
Cosmetology.
It's like a cosmetology class. It's a classroom that's made to teach people how to do hair. And he was like, this is amazing. He's like, I really want to use this. And so he does use it. And what happens is, because it's a cosmetology class, there's obviously a lot of those mannequin heads with wigs on them. They're all sitting out on this counter. So Jessica is able to hide from John Carver because she kneels down really low and puts her head at the same height as all these mannequin heads, posing. And she's doing a really good fucking job because we can see it from John Carver's perspective. It just looks like a table full of mannequin heads.
Right. She was sweating. I know she was sweating.
I would have shit on myself because he gets irritated. And this scene reminded me of a lot of things. As I was watching it, I was getting a lot of like prom night feels, because I don't know if you remember in prom night.
In the original?
In the original, yeah, with Jamie Lee Curtis, there's the killer has an axe and they're chasing like Wendy.
And that long,
the longest fucking chase scene I've ever seen in my entire life.
If y'all thought it's longer than Helen Shivers, it's longer than Gale Weathers in 2. It's long.
It's like Helen Shivers and Gale Weathers' length combined.
Y'all,
and I'm not trying to shit on it because I do really like that movie, but goddamn, trim this shit. So it reminded me of that, with like the axe wielding killer chasing through high school. It also reminded me, do you remember that movie Valentine?
Yeah.
So do you remember, it's like when he's killing Katherine Hagel and she works in like a mortuary and she gets in that body bag. So the killer is like, I don't have time for this shit. I'm not unzipping bags. So he just starts fucking stabbing each bag. And then it's like the last one left. So he's like, he knows that she's in it. It's giving me all of those vibes. It's really set up to create maximum tension because he's chasing her. He goes in the room, so she hides in the room, the lights are off. He flips the lights on, so automatically you're like, oh fuck. With the lights on, this is scary, right? Because he's maximum visibility. But then he just starts kind of taking that axe and fucking shit up, you know? And so I kept being like, please don't hit these mannequin heads with that axe, because I was like, her head would get so clean fucking lobbed off. And I knew that they weren't going to do that, but I did feel like he did a good job making it feel like a little tense. I thought Eli Roth did a good job with the scene. So eventually, fucking rookie move. She knocks over a can and it makes, I mean, a ton of noise. So of course he hears it, but she is able to eventually escape. She gets outside to the police, relays what she saw to Sheriff Newland, who's still on the scene. Bobby and Ryan show up to comfort her, but they ultimately end up getting in a fight instead because, of course, they do.
Because Bobby is in the way.
Is overstepping his boundaries right now. And this is the thing. This is one of those fucking scenes where it's like they really
want you to be like, Ryan, you suck.
Yes, but in real life,
Ryan should have whooped his ass.
Because, Bobby, this is not your girlfriend anymore.
Go comfort your friends. Go find Evan.
Go home. Roger, this isn't about you. Like, Bobby's name isn't even on the table. Like, if you just got the fuck out of here, you could read about this in the newspaper next week. You know what I mean? Like, nobody's checking for you, Bobby.
We thought you were dead.
Really? The killer was probably like, I really didn't give any thought to you. I mean, for all I know, you killed yourself. But that's a thing. They want you to feel like Ryan is the bad guy in this situation, but realistically, Bobby is the bad guy in this situation because, like, I get it. You want to comfort Jessica. That's great. But you need to comfort her as somebody that's been gone for a fucking year that actually has no idea about her life at all right now. And just be like, dang, girl, sorry, you know, and give her like a pat on the back. Because Ryan is there, you know? So they end up getting into a fight, and that's when Bobby confronts Ryan about the security guard, which was super awkward.
Oh, he thought he was like, oh, okay, all right. I'm about to get you. Explain this.
Oh, no, y'all. So it turns out that Ryan was like, I just buy Adderall from that guy. That's it. And then he says this thing, he's like, because that's what smart kids do to go to Ivy League schools, while kids like Bobby tow their Porsches.
I didn't like that.
I didn't like that.
Because although we went to college, I am a firm believer in there is nothing wrong with towing cars because cars need to be towed.
Exact. Hell no. I don't appreciate anybody shitting on anybody for doing anything.
We all are cogs in the wheel of a greedy system.
What Ryan said really rubbed me the wrong way, but what really kind of rubbed me the wrong way was that Eli Roth put that line in there anyway because it's just further pushing the narrative that we should feel like Ryan is a bad guy when he just addressed that, like, okay, there wasn't anything nefarious going on with the security guard, which I was a little irritated that Eli Roth put this storyline in there at all anyway, because it was just a waste of time. He's like really, really, really pushing the red herrings. And so I was just like, okay, whatever. Yeah, he was buying Adderall from him. Sure. Why would you tell the cops that, right? That's understandable. But it's like Ryan, up until this point, hasn't said anything elitist. Like, up until this point, he's been pretty cool.
And trying to actively get her friends to like him.
Exactly. And he's been a pretty stand-up guy.
And also, Bobby's poor.
That's my thing. I'm like, oh, okay. It's just like all of a sudden, it's like Ryan's rich, Bobby's poor, and that's also a part of the narrative. That's also a part of the dynamic. I was like, that came out of nowhere, right?
I understand that Ryan had money because he bought those tickets, but then, like, I thought they all kind of, on some level, had money because they were all friends, right?
I don't know. It just never came up. And now all of a sudden, it's a part of the narrative.
Drive my BMW. You drive a truck. We saw you drive a truck. What are you talking about, dude?
I just didn't like this line. I felt like this was really forced.
I didn't like it at all.
Yeah, it's just another thing to make you not like Ryan for no fucking reason. So let's keep going. This line wasn't the flex that Ryan thought that it was about to be, because now he just looks like a fucking dick. So Bobby pushes him. The sheriff comes over and he's like, look, break it the fuck up. You both need to stay away from the parade tomorrow. If I see either of you, I'm arresting you. Fair. And Jessica's like, both of you stay away from me too. I was just fucking attacked. Y'all came here to quote unquote comfort me, and now y'all are fighting, and I'm sitting here and now I'm supposed to be like worried about y'all's two fucking egos when I just almost got killed. Additionally, my friends could be fucking dead. And Bobby, remember, they were your friends too.
Y'all both stupid.
Y'all are being real fucking dumb right now. Bobby dumber than Ryan, but both real fucking dumb. But just then, Yulia's large, mean Russian father pulls up and he throws her in the car and he tells her that they're going to Florida and they leave. Which she's upset by, but I'm like, girl, read the fucking room.
I'd be like, yes!
I needed a vacation. So that's when Scuba decides, fuck this. The police aren't doing enough. We need to take matters into our own hands. Okay.
Bye.
I get, in a sense, what he's saying. I don't think that you should go confront anybody, which was their plan in the beginning. But I do believe that it never hurts to arm yourself. So that's what he does. So he and Jessica head over to McCarty's house. McCarty is that very much older gentleman that throws parties for children. He's the person that Jacob is working for. So this is the night of that big party that they were talking about in the beginning of the movie. This is a thing that I thought was very weird too. I don't know if we talked about it a ton earlier, but McCarty makes little appearances throughout the movie. They don't have a relationship with McCarty up until this point. If anything, he's very much just an acquaintance, and then also an acquaintance that they don't really seem to like that much. But now they show up at his house with everything that's going on, and he gives Scuba a gun.
Yeah.
Just gives it to him. And he doesn't really ask any questions either, and he's being very nice to them. Like, he's offering them multiple different guns, because I guess his dad, they deal in guns. I think that's like a known thing. Everybody's like, well, just get a gun from McCarty. And he also offers Jessica a belt that has a hidden knife in it, but she declines like a fucking idiot. I was like, Jessica, what movie do you think we're in? This is not a Lifetime original. This is a fucking slasher. Take the fucking belt, whether you use it or not. Don't you want to have something on you? She's not armed at all. Whatever. But it's not very great writing.
Well, it's the same thing you just said earlier. It's like, okay, we need you to like this character now because he's gonna give him a gun. We need you not to like Ryan because he's our red herring.
So we're just gonna make him say the craziest fucking
thing.
elitist line. Yeah. I think that that's just like poor writing.
Because they really want, like, go home and shave your back to this guy the first time we saw him. And now
Yes.
It's like, yo, you always been down.
Yeah, like, good looking out. He's like, yeah, you know, like, let me know if you need anything. I'm always here for you guys. And I'm just like, what the hell? What are we talking about? Who is this fucking guy? And he's going to come back later. And I just have to roll my eyes because I'm like, what is this writing? But okay, I don't want to harp on it too much, but I just thought that was mad weird. When I was watching it, I was like, okay, when did we miss a scene?
No, we didn't.
So meanwhile, at Yulia's house, she is packing to head to Florida. And her dad asked for a cop to be stationed at their house because, again, he is a sensible fucking adult. People are being murdered. They send him a cop, though, and it's smart on the dad's part, but as horror movie goes, we love him. We see him all the times. He's a fodder cop, right? That's the only reason that he's here. But he's watching the house, but just from the look of him, he's not doing much. But Yulia's dad ends up coming up to him and he gives him a container of food because he's like, well, we won't need it. We're going to Florida. And then he totally checks out as a cop. He totally turns his fucking cop hat inside out. He's like, I'm a civilian eating fucking corn on the cob at this point. He's grubbing. And that's when John Carver, of course, comes up behind him. And he ends up shooting him in the back with what looks like a tranquilizer gun. It's something that comes up a few times. So the cop hits the ground and the corn on the cob then rolls to John Carver's feet. And he's like, I can use this. So that's when Yulia's dad comes downstairs to investigate. He finds the cop. And then he is also shot with the tranquilizer gun. So now they're both out on the floor. So now Yulia is alone and she's trying to get herself ready to go. She's putting in contacts and things. It's a scene that is made to build a lot of tension because we are aware that John Carver is in the house, but Yulia is not. And so she's doing these small little things. She's having like a little bit of trouble getting her contact in. And so it's like at any moment you're like, oh my God, what's about to happen? What's about to happen?
Stressed out.
Stressed the fuck out. And so then she goes and she sits down in front of her vanity and she takes a FaceTime call from Scuba and Jessica. She's using her Q-tip. There's like a close-up of her using her Q-tip. She goes to throw in the trash can. She bends down, and it's when she comes back up that she can see John Carver is in the mirror right behind her. And he ends up stabbing her in the ears with corn on the cob holders. And I was like, that shit probably hurt so fucking bad. Thank you, Eli Roth. Like, good shot. So now she's rolling on the ground in excruciating pain, I'm sure. Scuba and Jessica are freaking out on the FaceTime call, and that's when John Carver picks up the phone, he waves to them, and he hangs up. Did you notice, I kind of saw it the first time, and I had to rewind it to make sure that I saw what I saw. There's a scene where she's walking from her bathroom. It's an ensuite bathroom, so it's connected to her bedroom. She's putting her contacts in, so she's not really looking around. That was like a part of the tension. She's, looking up to put the contacts in, and then she hears her phone ringing on the vanity, and she walks to it. She walks through the doorway into her room to it. Did you fucking notice that John Carver's standing next to her? She walks right by him. He's standing right there next to the doorway. He almost looks like a coat hanging up. But he's standing right fucking there. She doesn't notice him.
That's so scary.
It's so fucking scary, and I rewound it and I watched it because I did not notice it. It happened so fast, but being able to like rewind it and see it, I was like, that's fucking John Carver standing there. And I was like, damn, that
It's scary.
is so scary. I thought it was like just a really good shot. Now they're freaking out, so Scuba and Jessica rush over to Yulia's house, ready to get it on and popping. Because remember, Scuba got that gun, so he's like, I'm about to do the damn thing. They walk in, but that's when they find John Carver holding Yulia in front of him with a knife to her neck. He's also showing them a video of Evan and Gabby on his phone. It's like a live stream. So Jessica ends up telling Scuba, don't shoot. We need to find out where he's holding them. We won't be able to do that if he's dead. So now everybody's freaking out, very, very much unsure what to do. Scuba is very confused because he's like, we have like a really pressing fucking situation at hand. He's like, I get it. We need to find Evan and Gabby. But from the looks of the video, I was like, they don't look to be in any immediate danger. Yeah, you'll be able to find them. So I guess Scuba's thinking the same fucking thing because he tries to shoot John Carver. He pulls a trigger. Surprise, surprise, the fucking safety is on. John Carver takes this opportunity to turn on a table saw that's in the room with them, and he throws Yulia down onto it. It's so fucking awful, and it's really graphic. So she is on it, and it's cutting her, right? So she's freaking out. So she's trying to push herself up off the table, but because of that, it's cutting her fingers off. So she's sliding down the table because her fingers are coming clean undone, and she ends up landing on the saw belly first. My God, she's essentially disemboweled, just straight gutted by this saw under her. She's stuck on the table. So Scuba jumps up and he's really trying to pull her off the table, but it's just in that short amount of time. I mean, it's very much too late. Her intestines are hanging out all over the place. And this scene was actually really, really fucking heartbreaking because Scuba is holding her in his arms on the floor. She's obviously dead. And he's asking Jessica, I mean, he's clearly in shock. He's like, what should I do? And I thought that was so sad. I was like, Scuba is one of my favorite characters in the entire movie.
Mine too.
I felt so bad for him because it's his girlfriend and she's in his arms and he's just like, he's not screaming, he's not crying. I mean, Jessica too, they're both just kind of in shock.
Because they're kids.
They're kids, and this is like, she's dead in a horrific way. And he's just like, what should I do? And Jessica's just fucking silent because she's like, what the hell can I even say in this situation? So the scene cuts with him just like sitting there with her in his arms and Jessica just standing there wide-eyed. And that is the 5th on-screen kill. I thought Yulia's entire scene was really well done, that kill.
Yes.
So then we cut to Jessica's house. Her and Scuba are brought there. Sheriff Newland and the police are gathered with them, and her family's there too. Her dad and Kathleen are saying, well, now they clearly aren't going to participate in the parade, which is the next day, because they're like, it's too fucking dangerous. Her dad even decides that he's going to close the store for Thanksgiving this year, like a decent fucking human being.
Wow. The bare minimum.
I mean, the barest of minimums. And Kathleen tries to argue this, and I'm like, bitch, what the hell is wrong with you?
Greedy?
I mean, that's one word for it, psychotic. They pushed so hard to get us to hate Ryan and didn't push hard enough to get us to hate Kathleen.
Because I hated her from the minute that she was on the set.
I did too. Immediately.
I knew I was going to hate her. Stepmom, hate her.
Hate her. But Jessica and Scuba insist that the show must go on. They need to be in that parade tomorrow because, lest we not forget,
it's July 4th and it's his day, and everything he wants to happen is going to happen.
Same concept, different movie, different holiday.
Right.
In case you guys don't know, I Know What You Did Last Summer. But they say that we have to be in the parade. It may be the only opportunity to catch him because they know that he's going to show up to the parade. So Sheriff Newland and Deputy LaBelle decide that they are going to set a trap for Carver. So they're going to essentially use the family as bait. And they're going to lure Carver into a warehouse. So the parade's going to travel its route. And then if you guys aren't familiar with how parades work, they start at a warehouse and they make a big circle. They're going to ride their route and they're going to end at that warehouse. Their idea is after the parade is done, your float is going to pull into the warehouse. It's going to look empty except for you guys. And it's going to make John Carver think that he can attack you. But really, there's going to be police all around the building waiting. On its face, could be a good idea, but let's see how it goes. We cut to the next day. We're at the parade. Scuba, Jessica, her dad Thomas, and stepmom Kathleen, so they're all getting ready to get on their float. They're on high alert, and they're looking for a killer in the pilgrim outfit and the John Carver mask because that's how they've been seeing him. So everybody's eyes are peeled. Right before they get on their float to leave, McCarty shows up. He is also in the parade with his dad because I guess they're a business owner in the area. But he gives Jessica one of his father's rings that his dad wore when he was at war as a soldier. And he says that his dad said it kept him alive. So hopefully it can keep her alive too. And it's supposed to be, like, it's a really heartwarming thing that he's doing.
Stop trying to make fetch happen.
It's not going to happen. I don't know this man. You didn't do enough to ingratiate this man into the story. I don't know. It's weird that you would be this sentimental, and maybe we're just supposed to believe that McCarty's just like a really, really good guy. They've given us no reason to think that up until out of nowhere. I mean, it like smacks you in the face. But Jessica takes the ring and she thanks him, but not warmly, because Jessica is kind of like us in like
stranger danger.
Right. But everything appears to be going okay. Now remember, they're looking for John Carver in the audience. Everybody has their eyes fucking peeled. The killer appears in a fucking clown costume. Talk about subverting everybody's expectations. The clown was like, I'm gonna kill him in this one. Literally. He shows up with this fucking axe and he just lobs Lionel's head off point blank, period. No, it was on sight. No chit chat at all. Lionel's head is on the ground. The turkey mask is on it and everything. Because remember, he's a fucking mascot. The crowd goes wild. It hit the ground like a fucking bowling ball and it is chaos. Pure fucking chaos. So that's the 6th on-screen kill. And so now John Carver is acting up. He was like, I didn't come to fucking play. He's brought all kinds of smoke grenades of various colors. He's throwing shit. He has his fucking tranquilizer gun. He is handling business. Because remember, they're supposed to be like ready for this guy, right? Like the family's on guard. They have police everywhere. No. So now people are running around screaming crazy. The killer's setting off these grenades. So the visibility is very, very poor. Out of nowhere, just for fucking no reason whatsoever, there's a man that's pulling, in case you guys aren't familiar with parades, floats are pulled by trucks. The man that is driving the particular truck that is pulling the float that Jessica and her family is on, because visibility is so poor, he hits a guy on stilts. So that caused him to slam on his brakes, and it causes like a chain that's holding a piece of the float to break. And the mast of this float, it slides through the back window of this guy's truck, and it goes through the back of his head, straight through the front of his fucking face.
And his 4 grandchildren were like,
oh my
Grandpa,
God.
we're so excited to be with you today. Do this. It's so cool.
And then they're in the car with him. Blood is literally pouring out of his face like a faucet, and it's squirting all over his grandchildren. They're screaming. I was like, Eli Roth, why did you put that in the movie? I mean, it's a crazy kill, and shout out to Eli Roth for the practical effects, because the shit did look good. And that's the 7th on-screen kill. This random old man who was just trying to do an honest day's work. Realistically, though, he died because they needed another kill, right? Because it's probably going to be a bit of a minute. Or no?
Not really.
It's not.
No, it's not. No, I don't know what you're thinking about.
No, not really at all. He didn't need to die.
But it was just kind of like, oh, it was fun.
That was fun. So now Deputy LaBelle is trying to gather up Scuba and Jessica's family. He ends up loading them in his SUV to drive them off, get them out of this chaos. But just as he's about to climb in, the camera work here is really well done. The camera is sitting essentially like in the passenger seat, facing out the driver's seat. So Deputy LaBelle is like climbing into the SUV, and we just see him like clearly get like shot in the back. He's like stunned. He falls to the ground. We see John Carver in his killer clown costume. He's standing there with his tranquilizer gun. He shot Deputy LaBelle with a tranquilizer, so he's out. The killer then walks up to the SUV. He looks creepy as fuck. It's like a cheap but very effective clown costume. Like, it's not trying to take itself too seriously. It's really just like a clown costume.
It's just different. It just wasn't what you were expecting.
Exactly. It's what no one was expecting to see. And that made it really cool. That made it super cool. And so I was glad that they did that. But he ends up coming up to the SUV, and he throws in like a flashbang grenade, and it really disorients the passengers. So in the car, squeezed in the back, are Kathleen Thomas, Scuba, and Jessica. So then John Carver just kind of climbs into the vehicle and just, block, 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 block. He just shoots them all with the tranquilizer gun. And they're really lucky for now, because he really could have just shot them all right then and there. I mean, they're like sitting ducks in this SUV.
He has a flair for dramatics.
That's an understatement. we're about to get there. So that's when he hops into the SUV and he just drives off with them. Cut to black. Great scene. I really liked the parade scene.
I had fun with that one.
It was just a fun time. It's the exact same concept as I Know What You Did Last Summer, but they're building up the tension because as they're looking around, obviously it's like this town is in Massachusetts. It's like John Carver settled there. They've been handing out John Carver masks the whole movie because it's like a very popular figure. So there's a lot of people in the pilgrim costume with the John Carver mask. And it always, each time it's like, it always turns out to be somebody else, not the killer. They do the same thing with the slicker, the fisherman slicker. And I Know What You Did Last Summer. It's always just a random fisherman until it's not, until it's the real person. But in this case, Eli Roth took it a step further and subverted their expectations and fucking our expectations because nobody was expecting this fucking clown to, I mean, the way he cuts Lionel's head off is bonkers.
I guess the joke's on us.
Says the clown. All right, so now this is where I guess shit gets real.
Well, let's say turn up the heat.
Excellent. This is where the movie starts to turn up the heat. Now, Kathleen wakes up. She is on a table and she's surrounded by a bunch of vegetables. And she sees John Carver. They're in a kitchen. He's cooking. And so she still pretends to be unconscious, knocked out from this tranquilizer, while he's putting like a marinade on her. Lots of seasonings, fresh herbs. So then we see Carver go over to this huge oven and he starts to preheat it. And in it, it's kind of a cool shot. It's really hot and he sits his mask up on the oven and it actually melts one side of his mask. So when he puts it back on, it's like a really kind of eerie, distorted look of the mask. But while he's doing all that, Kathleen takes this as an opportunity to try to escape. Smart. So she hides and she starts trying to make her way out. They're in like this abandoned house's basement. So when Carver sees that she's gone, he grabs a pitchfork and he goes hunting, trying to find her. It's tense, but she is able to kind of make it out of the basement into like the house proper. And I thought that Kathleen was doing a really good job with this escape because, you know, usually people are like loud and stupid and dumb and making dumb decisions.
Yes.
I thought Kathleen was doing a lot right in this situation. But she gets upstairs and she ends up stumbling upon Amy. Remember her, the cheerleader from the trampoline? She is in a bag stuffed inside of a refrigerator. And she's bleeding out. So there's blood dripping out of the refrigerator. It's all over the floor. But she's somehow, for some strange reason, still alive in this moment. So that kind of shocks Kathleen, but she doesn't scream out loud. And I was like, damn, Kathleen must watch horror movies because she's doing such a good job right now. And Amy's like, help me, please don't leave me here. And she's like, bitch, I gotta go. And she closes that door because she's like, I can't. She's like, I'll send help.
I won't.
But unfortunately, because Amy is leaking so much blood on the floor, Kathleen steps in her blood. So she's leaving bloody footprints on the ground, which sucks because she was doing such a good job with this escape thus far. So John Carver knows exactly where she is. So she's waiting on the side of a wall for him to walk through with a bottle of wine raised in her hand, ready to clock him, which is so smart. But she doesn't realize that the bloody footprints are just showing him exactly where she is. So he ends up taking the pitchfork and he runs it through the wall right next to her face. I mean, right next to her face. So now all bets are off. So she screams and she makes a run for it. She does get out of the front door. She does make it. But John Carver just like fucking javelin throw launches this pitchfork at her back. It stabs her straight through the back. It knocks her down. She's on the ground, and he winds up grabbing the pitchfork and just violently drags her back into the house. So we then come back to Kathleen. She comes to, and she's tied up, and she's been placed inside of that super large oven that we saw John Carver preheating earlier. She is now essentially being cooked alive.
Essentially.
No, okay, scratch that. She is being cooked alive. It's pretty fucking brutal. John Carver even puts a meat thermometer in her shoulder to make sure that she's done, because safety first. Obviously, we all know that eating undercooked meat is dangerous.
Especially white meat.
Ooh, Dante!
You know chicken gotta be cooked 165 degrees inside.
I do, and John Carver knows too. So he puts the thermometer in her arm, and I was like, this is
the worst thing that can happen to you. I'd rather get my intestines chopped out.
I think I would rather get thrown on the saw too than be fucking cooked alive.
You're suffocating and you're burning.
Yes. And then you can see she is tied up in the position of a turkey.
A classic turkey.
Yeah, you know how you tie the turkey's legs together at the end? She's tied up like that, but it's like every now and then, like her toe will touch the side of the oven. And you know, like if you've ever been burned while cooking, that shit hurts so fucking bad.
And think about how fast when you burn yourself, like you touch it, you go, ooh.
But she's like in this bitch. And I was like, oh my God, this is one of the worst deaths I've seen, like in a really, really long time.
Did she deserve that?
I know that the right answer to this question is no, she did not deserve this, because nobody deserves this. But even as far as like movies go, and you know, we love seeing people get their comeuppance. We salivate over that shit on this podcast. This was too much, though. I was like, damn, I really didn't like Kathleen. I definitely wanted her to get her comeuppance. But like, pitchforked to death, I would have been like, yeah.
But like,
cooked alive?
But like the thing is, at this point in the movie, at this point you're kind of like, well, who is doing this and why?
Yes. Remember in the beginning, Lizzie the waitress dies, and then Manny the security guard dies, and that's when they make that connection that they're like, okay, this has to be somebody that was associated in some way with this riot that happened at Right Mart. This kill, though, is so fucking brutal that you're like, it has to be deeper than that. It kind of makes you start to think like, okay, well, could it be Mitch? Because it has to be somebody that was deeply affected by this riot. Like, it can't just be somebody that's trying to protest consumerism, because this is a lot.
I don't put nothing past Peter.
Well, I don't know, maybe. So eventually she succumbs to this and she dies, because you're right, you are suffocating in here in addition to being cooked alive. It didn't take long. In the time that she was alive, it was, I mean, I can't think of a worse way to die right now. But yeah, so Kathleen is the 8th on-screen kill. That is like the kill of the movie.
We've been working up to this one.
Yes.
They've gotten progressively worse.
Yeah. So this is when the police get a hit tracking John Carver. He starts live streaming his location in Cordage Park, which they were like, that sounds about right, because that's where they got a clue earlier. We find out through this live stream that this is where Carver has this morbid dinner table set up. But now he has a table full of guests. So he has Jessica, her dad Thomas, Gabby and Evan are there, and Scuba is also there. The police believe they found the exact location. It's hidden underground, so that's why they didn't find it before. So they go down, but surprise, surprise, it was a live stream of a computer monitor. So the police have been tricked. Meanwhile, at the actual dinner table, Carver tells the group to gather around. because dinner is served. And he really starts like hamming it up at this point. So he's using a voice modulator. It's distorting his voice. That's when he wasn't lying. He has the food at the table. He yanks the covering off of Kathleen's body. And I mean, I'm not trying to be like graphic or gross, but she is cooked to a golden brown perfection. And he has her posed exactly like a turkey with her head cut off and everything. He has her head sitting to the side on a separate dish.
It's too much.
It's a lot. And I was like, how does Eli Roth sleep at night? What goes through his dreams? So he then uses a wine opener to stab a now dead Amy in the neck, and he drains her blood into a wine glass to drink. And he's like, I mean, he's really chopping it up with them. He's like, excellent vintage. It's been chilling in my wine refrigerator all day. Just doing the absolute most right now. So that's when Carver tells them that they're being live streamed, and now they're going to go around the table and they're each going to say what they're thankful for this Thanksgiving. Evan is going to go first since he made this video of the riot. So Carver sets up the phone in front of him, and as Evan is just begging for help, John Carver takes a huge meat tenderizer. He's like, you're going to go viral. He's like, are you ready to break the internet? And he beats Evan's head to a bloody pulp mush. There's blood spraying everywhere. And that's the 9th on-screen kill. It happens really quickly.
He's so dead.
Very dead. So Carver tells the rest of the group that they are still alive because the others were just greedy. They just wanted to get something, money, fame. But the people that are left are the VIPs. Because not only did they get into the store early, they also taunted those outside. Now, as Carver is really, I mean, psychological torture at this point, he carves a piece of Kathleen's thigh off and plates it for Thomas to eat. So he has this plate of Kathleen thigh, this cup of blood line. And I was like, Carver is sick.
Yes.
But while he's doing that, Jessica and Scuba are able to free themselves from their restraints. They're using that ring that McCarty gave Jessica earlier at the parade. It has a little blade inside. So now they're starting to escape, but Scuba ends up getting axed in the arm. He isn't killed, but he's very much hurt. So he's on the ground, and Jessica just keeps running. She's able to escape, and that's when she realizes that they're in the John Carver house from earlier that was vandalized. So now she knows exactly where she is, so she's getting the fuck out of here. So she runs through this kind of wooded area. She goes to jump over a fence. She gets caught for just a second on this bracelet that she's wearing. John Carver's hot on her heels. He almost axes her, but she's able to jump off the fence. She kind of twists her ankle in the process, but she keeps fucking running. Smart. So when she gets out of the area, she ends up back at the warehouse where the floats were going after the parade. Outside, this is where she stumbles upon Sheriff Newland. He's on the ground, unconscious in the road. He's bleeding. He's been hit over the head. That's when she sees somebody going into the warehouse, and so she's sure that it must be Carver. So she grabs the sheriff's gun and she heads inside. She does not call back up. I would like to note that. When she gets inside, She hears somebody rifling around. She sees this person who is wearing a John Carver mask. When they take it off, Jessica is shocked to see that it is Bobby. Dun dun dun.
Bobby.
Just then, Sheriff Newland comes up behind her and he tells her to run, and he's going to confront Bobby. She's running and she ends up hearing some gunfire. And that's when Newland comes back to find her, and he says that he believes he shot Bobby, but that he ultimately got away. That's when Deputy LaBelle and the detective from earlier, Detective Chu, they arrive and they say that they found John Carver's phone inside the warehouse and it's still live streaming. Sheriff Newland looks at it and confirms that it's Bobby's. Which, how the fuck would he know that? Well, we learn from Detective Chu that Jessica's dad, Scuba, and Gabby are all safe. They're all in the hospital recovering, so thank goodness for that. Once Deputy LaBelle and Detective Chu leave, Jessica asks Newland for a minute to just kind of catch her breath before they head to the hospital. She just wants a second alone. So he leaves the room. When he comes back in to take her to the hospital, that's when she notices the same plant pollen that's all over her pants from running from the Carver house through that area of woods is also stuck to Sheriff Newland's shoes and the bottom of his pants. That's when it hits her like a ton of bricks that he is in fact the killer. So by the look on her face, Newland realizes that she knows and the jig is up. And so now in true slasher villain form, he just starts pouring out the details of his plan. He says that he'd drugged Bobby, he dressed him up, and he set him up to be shot in order to frame him for the murders. But when they got to the warehouse, Bobby ended up hitting him over the head with a tire iron outside, and that's how Jessica found him. He also reveals that he's been using Jessica this entire time to identify people that were involved with the riot in order to set them up to be killed. This is when Jessica asks, why? Why, Sheriff Newland? Why are you doing this? This is the next big twist, okay? Sheriff Newland was actually in love with Mitch's wife, Amanda. He reveals that they'd been having an affair for a while and that she was actually pregnant with his child and planning to leave Mitch for him when she was killed. And that just sent him over the edge. Now, I didn't like this reveal. I know that you didn't like it either. It's giving very much soap opera. Why don't you like it?
This motive is like wild.
It's a wild motive to cook a woman alive.
To disembowel a child. You sliced a woman in half and hung her by signage.
Yeah. And then it's like, well, Kathleen is the one, I guess, that suggested they be open. And I feel like she had the worst death of all. But I was like, shouldn't all of your ire be directed toward Thomas? What the fuck did Jessica do? You're mad at Evan that much that he, quote unquote, taunted everybody outside. That crowd was probably going to stampede anyway. They were getting crazy. Evan didn't cause that crowd to stampede. Evan was doing a lot, but what did Yulia do? What did Scuba do?
Absolutely nothing.
If anything, remember, Yulia almost got trampled to death, and Scuba jumped on top of her to shield her. But, like, what did Gabby do? And he's saying that they're, like, the VIPs of all of this because they taunted everybody. There were two women involved in Amanda's death. They were fighting over their baskets and didn't notice that they were, like, scalping her. I know that Eli Roth wanted to make it something that was supposed to be like really, really, really tragic and heartbreaking so that you could kind of feel like he was, at least in his mind, he could feel justified for the things that he was doing. But it's almost too personal. I would have respected it more if he was like, I'm doing this to teach the wealthy a lesson
Yeah.
about greed. I would be like, okay, that makes sense that you just be picking off all the wealthy
Right.
kids and stuff. That would be more understandable. But you're like, the person that I was having an affair with died, and she just so happened to be pregnant with my child. So now I'm going to kill these teenagers that have literally zero say in what this corporate overlord does with his stores. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, she just so happens to be the daughter. And for that reason, these kids, these like 17, 18-year-old kids, deserve to be brutally murdered, like thrown on saws and have their heads bashed in with mallets.
And it happened so early that we can't forget that waitress really got messed over.
The waitress really got messed over, but I was like, okay, I get it. She was doing a lot. And she's the person that ultimately kills Amanda.
I don't feel bad for Amanda.
I don't feel anything about Amanda because we didn't get any connection with her. And so I was just like, Eli Roth and Jeff Rendell, I don't think that this is good storytelling. I don't appreciate this motive. I don't appreciate these reveals.
I don't think that this motive was good. When I heard that part of the story, I was like, I know you lying. I wasn't like aghast. I was like, that's dumb. First of all, let's talk about entanglements. Her husband's living off of her insurance. He don't work no more. And here you are running around in the goddamn forest.
Doing the
Most,
most.
just doing the most for what?
This is not good writing to me. Now, this movie is very, very popular, and I can totally understand why it's popular. Eli Roth is really good, really creative with kills. I just think that with a little bit of extra care to the script, it would have done wonders. This is a bad fucking reveal.
What story are you telling with that motive? Because if he would have told me that in that room, I would have been like,
Okay. What the fuck does that have to do with me?
so you kill all these people because you caught feelings for your sneaky link? I know you lying. I'm in here being chased and you cooked Kathleen and basted her every 30 minutes
Until she was golden brown?
and served her to my dad because you fell for your sneaky link? Sir.
Ridiculous. If it was like something to send a message about capitalism or something along those lines, it's like you built up all of this. You made us hate Kathleen because she had the store open on Thanksgiving Day. You made us hate Thomas for being greedy and all of this. But then it all boils down to this guy was having an affair with this man's wife, and then she got pregnant and she died. And now, because of that reason, he's going to kill half of the town? No. But I'll continue. So that's when Jessica reveals that she'd actually picked up the phone that was placed in evidence that was live streaming, the one that Sheriff Newland just so happened to know was Bobby's. Well, it's John Carver's phone. It's Sheriff Newland's. She picked it up off the desk, and she's been live streaming Newland's entire confession. So, got him.
Well, dang. Now you ruined Mitch's memory of his wife.
Yeah. So Newland tries to attack Jessica, but Bobby is here, and he throws a hammer through a window, and it hits Newland in the head, just kind of knocking him down for a minute. So they're trying to escape, but Newland has locked the warehouse up because at this point he's really unhinged. I guess he's just like, I don't give a fuck anymore. So then Newland comes out to yell, "Sorry, Jessica, this year there will be no leftovers." Eli Roth was probably giggling like a little schoolgirl when he put this line in the movie. Okay, sure, I'll give you that one. Sure. I think that was like the tagline for the movie too, like in the promotional material.
It was.
So Bobby and Jessica, they're trying to distract Newland while they drive Bobby's uncle's tow truck out of the warehouse. Jessica turns on this gas canister that's connected to this big Thanksgiving Day turkey balloon, and they're trying to get out. But Newland, because it's a tow truck, right, he ends up taking the chain that's attached to the tow truck and he wraps it around a beam in the warehouse. So when they've driven far enough, it ends up stopping them. They can go no further. They're trapped at this point. So Jessica ends up taking a musket that's on the back of the tow truck, and she ends up shooting a shot at the inflatable turkey that is now full of gas inside. And this causes a huge explosion that ends up freeing them and taking out Newland. Now that they're outside, Bobby hugs Jessica and he tells her goodbye. And Ryan comes to embrace her along with Scuba, Gabby, and fucking McCarty. Who called you? Who called this grown man? What friend in this group has his number on speed dial?
Why do they want McCarty to be such a character?
I don't know. Then we cut to the police, and the firemen are telling the police that they didn't find Newland inside, but they're saying that everything inside of the building was incinerated and no one could have survived that blast. Like, sure, Jan. But that's when the screen fades to black. We cut to Jessica's bedroom, and she and Ryan are in bed.
Oh, so y'all thought she was going to be back with Bobby? Nah.
Dante, when I was watching it, I was kind of irritated because I was like, Eli Roth wanted us to think she was going to get back with Bobby. They were pushing Bobby so hard this whole movie. So then when you see her in bed with Ryan at the end, it's like kind of jarring.
Because Ryan just disappears in the movie.
He just disappears, and then she spends all of her time with Bobby because they're very close because they used to date.
Used to.
So that's when she hears a noise coming from her closet. So she goes over to check it out. And just when she thinks it's nothing, and on fire, John Carver grabs her from behind. But she pops up. It was just a dream. This time she wakes up in bed with Ryan for real and looks at her closet. There's like a flash, and then we cut to the credits. And that is the end of the movie. So the total kill count is 9. The Rotten Tomatoes, it's an 84% critic and an 80% audience. The IMDb is a 6.3 out of 10 with 46,000 reviews. Fun facts. So Eli Roth said that the cat in the movie, Manny's cat, he was such a good actor and performed on cue that he ended up calling the cat Leonardo DiCaprio. I thought that was so cute. But in reality, the cat's name is Tonic, and he actually starred in Pet Sematary in 2019.
This cat is booked.
And busy. I was like, good for him. So Roth intentionally used multiple actors behind the mask in order to not give away the identity of the killer. So you wouldn't get used to a particular body type or, be like, damn, doesn't Patrick Dempsey walk with that swagger? No. So he used a lot of different actors in order to make it a little bit more misleading. So Like we said earlier, there's a lot of Easter eggs throughout the movies. Eli Roth pays homage to a lot of different movies. So these are just like a couple of things that are actually just like kind of confirmed Easter eggs in the movies. In an homage to Halloween 1978, the film starts with a point of view shot from the killer's perspective, and it's a foreshadowing for the reveal that Sheriff Newland is the killer. Because remember, it's a POV of Sheriff Newland when he's arriving at Mitch's house. The crowd bursting into the Right Mart is paying homage to George A. Romero's Dawn of the Dead, because almost the exact same thing happens in that movie. The setting in that one is a mall, and the zombie horde ends up breaking through the glass doors just like that. There's also it's a little known movie. It's called Cutting Class. It's a 1989 movie. It's like Brad Pitt's first role. But in the movie, there's a male student that is jumping on a trampoline and actually gets stabbed through the trampoline, similar to Amy's kill. There is a movie, it's called Happy Birthday to Me, and it features a scene with dead characters arranged around a dinner table, much like in this movie. So, with that, I guess the big question is the movie a hit or a miss?
Is it a hit or a miss? Okay. Well, it's hard because what makes it a hit? What makes a movie a hit?
Well, I base that off of a lot of feeling, a lot how I feel about a movie. I guess I base a lot of it on rewatchability. If I want to watch a movie again, how I felt about it, if I had fun watching it, if I had a good time, if I was scared. It's just like a lot of that. It's just like how I felt about it. And sometimes you don't like stuff, and sometimes you do. Like, I think Wild Wild West is a masterpiece, but I can understand that it's not everybody's cup of tea, and I can understand it's not like the greatest movie ever written, but it's like I will always give Wild Wild West a hit. I will always give I Still Know What You Did Last Summer a hit because I like them and I'll watch them in heavy rotation until the day I die.
Because I was looking at it was a hit. Like, did it do what it went out to do? It wanted to scare people. Was it for what the movie was? Was it good? The answer is then like yes, but then it's like, do you want to see it again? No, I never want to watch this movie again in my life. So is it really a miss because I didn't want to watch it and its target audience was dissatisfied?
Okay, but we're not giving our judgment based on what a target audience feels. We're giving our judgment based on what we feel only. Like, we cannot please everybody. It is for you personally. Do you think that it is a hit or a miss? And you can say that something is a miss with the caveat that, like, I still think that people should see it. I still think that it has these elements, but for me, it didn't connect with me. And that's respectable. That's totally understandable.
Okay, this movie is a miss because I didn't like it. I never want to see. I never want to see it again. I guess people like it, and I'm happy that it's here for people to enjoy, and it's going to be a sequel. So I'm happy that you'll get a sequel. But I hope I never have to see this movie again in my life. I just didn't enjoy it. I didn't like the ending. I didn't really like the middle of it either. I was ready for it to be off. By the time the second person died and the cat got fed, I was like, I'm tired of this movie.
I respect that. I'm going to give this movie a hit. I'm going to give this movie a hit because the movie did, I think, a good job in a lot of areas. I like the style of the movie. The things that I didn't like about it, I don't think were deal breakers, i.e., I did not like Evan at all. Like, I just thought he was really insufferable. I thought that the dialogue was kind of bad at times. I just don't, that, that may not be Eli Roth and Jeff Rendell's strong suit, just like it's not Rob Zombie's strong suit. But overall, I thought that it was extremely creative. I thought that every kill was different. I thought that every kill was really well done. Overall, it wasn't scary to me, but I thought that it was very entertaining. I thought that it had tense moments, and I didn't just sit there bored the whole time while I was watching it. I sat there. There were moments where I was like, oh my God, like what is about to happen next? Like the scene in the cosmetology classroom, Kathleen's escape. I had a really fun time with the parade scene. I thought Kathleen getting cooked alive was like super brutal and really cool to watch, not to sound morbid. So with all that being said, it's like, yes, at the end, I didn't like the motive for the killings, but I thought Patrick Dempsey did a really good job, as he usually does. Um, and I felt I did like Scuba. I thought he was a really good character. Jessica was just like okay as a final girl. She's not my favorite. She's not really a standout to me. It has a lot of flaws, but overall, I just cannot say that I didn't have a good time watching this movie. So yeah, I'm gonna give it a hit. Yeah, that's how I feel about it.
Awesome. I don't hate this movie. I just don't really care for it. It wasn't like I had a lot of expectations for it. I was really excited about this movie. And then I was just kind of like, oh, it's mid.
That's fair. I totally get what you're saying. It did knock it out of the park, but I like it for what it is. Eli Roth is not John Carpenter, and Jeff Rendell is not Kevin Williamson. I'm hoping that the second one is a little bit better as far as story. So, with that being said, do you want to tell them about the social media?
Just like for Justin doing the special episode as a request, we hope to do this again sometime down the line. So you can always contact us on our social media, Instagram. Did you get that on film? It's probably the easiest and fastest way to get in contact with us because we're very active on it. But we also have a Facebook as well as a YouTube channel, and they're all Did You Get That on Film? In addition to our email, which is Did You Get That on Film at gmail.com. So feel free to always drop us a line. We are always excited to hear from our listeners.
And that's all for us today, guys. And we'll be back next week with a brand new episode. It'll be another listener request, and we're really excited. So until then, bye.